table and my manners were wrong, she would just issue and she would say like 15. People would know what it meant, but the number meant to me, check your elbows or your napkins on the floor.
It's like a safe word for
Exactly.
polite behavior.
That's right.
So that's what we're going
our
to need
safe
for
word.
you. 15 from now on, Caleb.
Oh, man.
Hello, everybody tuning in on Facebook and YouTube. This is Trends with Benefits, our weekly roundtable podcast where we gather experts and guests and talk about the topics of the day. We're going to be taking your questions, so go ahead and pop those in there. We've got a bunch of things we're going to get to today. We're going to talk about some... I want to talk about some Nano-Probes, which sounds really weird to say. Now I feel like I need to edit myself. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some AR, some VR, and Techfest Northwest. So we're going to be discussing that. Let's get to our roundtable here really quick and see who we've got in studio with us. To my right, it is...
Nick Moke. I'm the managing editor at Digital Trends.
Excellent. And our special guest of the hour.
Hey, I'm Mark Zusman. I'm the founder of Techfest Northwest, which takes place in a couple of days.
Awesome. And Caleb?
Caleb Dennison, as you just said, thank
Yes,
you.
15.
Senior editor of Home Theater and Entertainment.
All right. And I know if you're on Facebook right now and watching this, probably everything in your feed has to do with this. So I feel like we have to acknowledge it off the top. Prince. Like, who saw that coming? I mean, 57 years old.
I knew that
young.
he was having health issues, but I totally didn't see it coming. I am shocked and really, deep down upset.
Well, I'm sorry.
We've lost a lot. I mean, everybody knows we've lost.
2016 is the
Dark year.
worst. Yeah,
It's
the
been a
worst
dark year for artists lost and celebrities in general. But this one hits particularly hard for me. I
I
wasn't
think for a lot of people, in large part because there was no sense that the guy was slowing down.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in his fourth decade of performing, and he's working as hard as he was when he was 20 years old.
Although, I mean, his plane did have to make an emergency landing in Illinois due to health issues just last week.
Right.
Yeah.
But I totally missed that that story. I mean, it was just a quick bump, and so his just that time spent after we knew that somebody was dead at his estate, to the time when it was officially confirmed that it was him or he who had passed. That's just
Well, it's just, I mean, in addition to, losing him as a musician, it's always, it's weird to think that Prince isn't out there just doing Prince stuff, at his house, is bathing in, a bath of pearls or something, and, and just strange people walking around his house. Like, it just seems like it doesn't, all the imagination that was with that it's weird it doesn't exist now. It's just strange. So
He's doing all that up in Prince Heaven now.
right, Prince. Well, we do have an article coming out, and just to touch on it really quick, Caleb, I know you have something about this, about Prince.
Well, the thing about Prince was that he had some very strong opinions about streaming music.
Yeah.
And eventually he allowed his catalog to be served up through Tidal, which is a mess of a streaming service. I don't even want to go there. We're actually working on a piece about why we will never cover Tidal again. But so if you're looking to stream some of Prince's hits, and you don't have yourself a Tidal account, we're coming up with a bunch of different ways that you can make Prince's music accessible to you, over the next few days if you want to kind of use that as your part of your grieving process.
Okay, so that article is going to come up here on digitaltrends.com pretty soon.
Yeah,
Okay.
we should have that up within the next hour or two.
Okay.
Caleb, I'm curious, though, about the streaming thing. Do you know what his objections to streaming were? Was it purely monetary, or was he just wasn't a fan of that format? I'm guessing if he got on board with Tidal, it was just a
Prince,
compensation thing.
The compensation thing was always a thing for Prince. That's why he ditched his name and became a symbol, was because it was in retaliation to record labels and the ownership they had over him. He was like, you may own some of my music, but you don't own me as an artist. You can't make me.
But that's right, wasn't it? He was under contract to Warner, and they, in essence, owned the name Prince, and so he left Warner and said, "Fine, I'm not Prince anymore."
That's right. That's exactly what he did. And a lot of people who didn't understand what was behind all that just thought, man, this guy is a wacko.
Right.
First of all, what the heck is that symbol, And second of all, is he so self-absorbed? Is he such a self-centric person that he would do it? Turns out, no. He was very wittingly rebelling against the music industry and in specific Warner, and so money was always a thing. Not so
Right.
much the money, but the ownership and the rights and what artists should always get. But I wouldn't be surprised if, since he went with Tidal, I wouldn't be surprised since we know that they're having trouble paying the royalties they promised to pay. I wouldn't be
'Cause that was
surprised
their
if
whole
the reason
thing,
they
right? They
went
were
there
gonna-
also has to do with sound quality, because Tidal is known as being a high resolution streaming service. You know, it's uncompressed audio. Or, well, less compressed, and supposed to be of significantly higher quality than even the best that Spotify has to offer. So there was probably a component of that involved as well.
Okay, but there are some ways to get around that possibly that we will have.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we have some alternative methods that will get you listening to Prince's music if you don't happen to own any of his records or CDs.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's go on to the topic of the day, which is Techfest Northwest, which starts on Monday, if I'm correct.
It is Monday morning.
Starts on Monday. So, Mark, can you tell us about the history of this and what it is that's going on here?
So, as you gentlemen know, we've been putting on a rather large music festival for it's coming on 2 decades.
Which, really quick, I want to say Music Fest Northwest, the lineup is outstanding this year. I'm so excited about that.
Well, thanks for the plug. We're really excited
my
too.
plug.
Everyone from Duran Duran to Tame Impala to Ice Cube to Ween, and I myself have just loaded onto my phone a number of artists that I was not aware of that are playing, like Lizzo. Have you guys discovered her?
No, I
Oh
mean,
my God, she's awesome. She does some of the soundtrack for Barbershop, which is the movie Ice Cube is in. Nathaniel Ratliff, who's just huge. In any event, no, it's a great lineup, and ticket sales are flying, so we're delighted. In any event, Music Fest, as you may or may not know, was actually started as a partnership with the boys who run South by Southwest. I've known them for 30 years because they run the Alt Weekly in Austin, the Austin Chronicle. We run the Alt Weekly in Portland called Willamette Week. So we started as a partnership. We had sort of an amicable separation, but it's not surprising then that about 5 years ago we decided to start up a tech conference, somewhat in concert with a music conference, to sort of honor and celebrate the startup community in Portland, about whom we're really excited. I mean, these are companies that are green, that are paying living wages, and then most of which get what we call the Portland aesthetic. And so we started, the idea was to try to book world-class speakers. And then we've been doing this now. This will be our 5th year. We grew to start bringing in some venture capitalists, because when you talk to startups, what do you need in addition to the networking and the inspiration of speakers? They say we need money. They say we need employees. So we've got a talent fair as well. And this year we had companies apply to pitch to investors. Had no idea, because it was really our first time, what kind of a response we were going to get. We got about 120 applications from all
Wow.
over the world. We accepted 50, so those 50 are coming from all over the country. We've got some from Canada, 1 or 2 from Europe. They're going to pitch and attend workshops that are created
It's just
for them.
like a tech Shark Tank kind
It
of a
is,
thing.
because it's going to be in public. It's going to be
Oh,
a
it's gonna
Shark
be-
Tank.
You can come and watch.
You can
this.
come and watch it.
Man,
You can watch them
dude, that
pitch.
sounds
That's
awesome.
Watch them pitch.
Yeah.
And we're holding it at the Armory, which for those of you who don't live in Portland is this historic building that was built more than 100 years ago that's been completely reconditioned. But then we've got just some great speakers on the main stage around them. Obviously, virtual reality is huge, so we've got some great
Yeah.
virtual reality people. Nick here is going to be interviewing the head of developer relations for Nest Labs, a woman named Aubrey Thielen. We've got some great local folks, a guy who runs Simple, which is a local financial tech firm. We've got a bunch of people coming down from Paul Allen's company, Vulcan, who are engaged in, for lack of a better term, tech for social good. So one guy, I think, creates Fitbits for elephants.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's, so he's going to come on and talk about that. Some of the speakers that people are very excited about is, you've all heard about the Google car and autonomous driving. Well, there's actually a self-driving semi-truck, which is frightening when you think about it, right? 40 tons, no drivers. It's been developed by Daimler, and it was developed right here in Portland. So the guys that ran that program are going to talk and probably scare the hell out of us.
Yeah, because that we were talking about this beforehand. That reminds me of Who Made Who, from Stephen King. That's pretty much it. The machines are taking over. A
Well, do you
40-ton.
remember Steven Spielberg's first movie, which I can't remember the name of it?
was it?
But it was Dennis Weaver, who was followed the entire film by a guy in a semi-truck, but you never saw the guy. So it was,
Oh,
if it was
yeah,
autonomous.
that's right.
And it was frightening. That's what I dream of. Or
And
have
now I can be
nightmares
a
about.
robot in a semi truck.
Yeah.
So all of those companies are going to be there. And now, is this open to the public? Can you get tickets still?
You can still get tickets. The tickets are, I believe, $119 for 2 days. It includes a lot of parties, a lot of networking, other speakers that I haven't spoke of. And Digital Trends is going to be there in force, and we're thrilled to have you guys on and as I said, Nick's going to be interviewing some people.
Yeah.
Ian and Dan will be speaking as well, right?
That's right. Ian
Our
and Dan.
CEO and CTO.
Yeah, so they're
Conspiracy
going to
Dan.
come and they're going to, you gents know it, but their story is so great. They're in part going to fly in the face and offer a little bit of a contrarian point of view because much of our event is there are 20 or 25 venture capitalists flying in from California and Seattle as well as Portland. They're going to be meeting with companies, and what Dan and Ian are going to talk about is you don't need venture capital. You can be a successful tech company, a successful startup, and you don't have to go the VC route. So they're going to sort of tell their origin story.
Yeah, I think a lot of our podcast listeners may not know that Digital Trends was like a completely bootstrapped company.
Yeah.
Ian and Dan literally started this thing out of their garage and grew it organically, and no venture capital invested. So yeah, that will be interesting to have that kind of dichotomy going on at the fest.
I love that we get to tell that story. They get to tell that story at, like you said, an event that's very VC focused, and it's that contrarian viewpoint. I think that's awesome.
Right. And they're such great guys, as you know it. You see them in the street, you'd have no idea what these guys do.
Right.
None of them are wearing Apple Watches. I was giving them a hard time. I said, "Where's your Apple Watch?" And they said, "What do you mean? I don't need an Apple Watch." So no, we're thrilled about that.
That's fantastic. Well, don't be surprised if Dan bursts in here. He does that quite frequently on
Yeah.
the podcast and tries to mess us up. So that could very well
you
happen. So yeah, all this is happening here in town. It's a really cool event that you guys have put
It's
together.
cool that we have it.
Yeah,
and it
it's
lends
something
a
in
little bit
Portland.
more credibility to the notion of Portland becoming the Silicon Forest. We are definitely becoming a hotbed for tech and innovation, and it's awesome. I'm proud to have something like this in our city.
They're really interesting companies doing really interesting things that a lot of folks don't know about. I mean, there's some really interesting VR plays that are taking place here. One of the guys that we're talking to is named Lucas Foster, who is a major big deal Hollywood director and producer. He produced Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Mask of Zorro, and about 50
wow.
or 60 films. He's got a company now called Headcase VR that has offices in Portland and West Hollywood. And he's making virtual reality. He's making a lot of VR commercials. So I think Chevy was his last. He made a commercial for the Detroit Auto Show for them. They're doing some really interesting stuff with sports teams. So and I think you may want to talk about VR later, but they have contracts with a number of professional and college football teams for purposes of recruiting. So their first contract was with the University of Michigan. So if you're a high school kid, you go to University of Michigan now, you slap on a headset, and you're in the middle of whatever is that stadium.
Wow.
You're on the field, and basically what they're saying is this is what it's like to be a Wolverine. Is that the right?
Yeah, Wolverines.
Yeah.
That's an interesting use because there was
right out of Portland.
Wow, that's fantastic because that's such a growth industry right there, figuring out how to capitalize on VR and use it in those different ways. Like even when the March Madness was going on, I don't know if I can say that on the air or not, whatever. Insanity of the month before April was going on. There were Fox Sports, I believe it was testing out VR where you could sit. It was like you're right down on the court in the middle of the game and creating that content and figuring out how to make films and television shows and even commercials where people can consume it, but yet also be able to see everything that's going on. That's a huge challenge. That's cool that they're right here out of Portland, and who knew? So Techfest Northwest. It's TechfestNW.com, right? That people can go to?
Correct.
Okay, well, and speaking of VR, because we are going to talk about that, I wanted to get to this story, and this is one that just came out, I believe I just saw this today, that it came out, and it's about another startup company called Curoscope. Curoscope, I think I'm saying that correct.
I think it's curious.
All right, we're just going to say that's what it is until they tell us otherwise. Curoscope. And so they're actually talking about virtual reality and augmented reality. And they're saying that it's one and the same. There's always been kind of this difference because virtual reality, you put on the goggles and you're completely taken out of whatever's going on. You're in this virtual world, whereas AR kind of layers it over everything. They're trying to combine those two, and they're saying that it's going to become virtually the same thing. And so they've got this thing called a Virtuality, which is a T-shirt. I don't know about the naming of the product, but the idea is good. And so it's this T-shirt that you put on that works with an app that they've got. And so you can hold your phone up and say someone's wearing this shirt, you hold your phone up to it with the app running, and it will lay over essentially their internal organs, so you can they're looking at it as like an educational thing for students. Just as that idea, though, that you can be able to do that on a phone at this point is pretty incredible. And I don't know, do you see some value in this, like where this could go? I don't know.
Did you watch the video?
I did.
It's kind of unsettling.
It
actually,
is
'cause
unsettling.
there's like a beating heart, and it.
I'll be honest. I hate medical shows, so it's not my thing at all. I can't even watch fake medical shows. But yeah, the idea is pretty cool though that you'd be able to do.
I mean,
this.
I think this has the potential to get like younger people interested in something, a subject that in a textbook is really hard to get engaged with, like anatomy. But you hand a kid this app and they can like look at their friend who's wearing it and poke their heart, and you know, like I think it actually has some potential to get kids interested in something that might otherwise not interest them.
This reminds me a lot of there are a number of apps you can use, but where you basically take your phone and you hold it up to the sky and it shows you which stars are where, and then there's like a blown up version of the constellation or Jupiter or Venus or whatever, and as you move it around, it changes dynamically.
Right.
It's not all that far off from that, where you're basically using your phone for what is augmented reality, not virtual reality. Their whole like blending, and it's the same thing, and no, they're different things. I'm sorry. They're very different
I think
things.
I think that down the line, the line between them will blur. Like right now, if you want AR, for instance, like the latest generation of AR is going to be HoloLens, right? And then if you want the best generation of VR right now, it's the Vive, HTC Vive. But eventually, you could just have conceivably one headset that will do
both.
AR in some instances, and then completely envelop you in a VR space in others, and sort of blend those together more than the current generation does. I mean, right now you really do have to choose. Eventually, I envision there will be one piece of hardware that can either overlay things over the environment or completely fabricate an environment around you.
So I'm wondering what kind of use case scenarios, when would you want to blend AR with VR? Because the AR is kind of the VR over the real world. The fact that AR exists is because it's not completely VR. So if you're blending VR and AR together, there's no real world left, really, is there?
I think the terms are sort of blurring, but I mean, so for example, there's a VR, or actually they call themselves an AR company in Portland that is focusing just on the construction and architectural industry. And their idea is you slap on a headset and you will see the building you're in, and we're going to show you how it'll look if it'll be remodeled.
Okay.
So I guess that's AR.
That's AR. VR would be you're looking at a rendered building.
Right.
And
You're
you're
walking through a
overlaying
building.
things which are also virtual.
Yeah.
It's all virtual. There's no, to augment reality, you have to have reality.
Maybe
be part of it.
Maybe they're talking about more of a headset that can do both.
And that would be fine. I'm
something
all
like
for
that
hardware
combine them.
that can do both.
Right.
But to say that there's no difference between the two, like I can see them kind of influencing each other.
Yeah.
But the reality part, what I'm saying is let's not lose sight of reality.
This is a big issue.
Because it is happening.
Big issue on this podcast.
I would like
Caleb
for it
is very
to
upset
continue
about
to
this.
happen. You know what I'm saying? It's just just don't get too excited.
okay.
People love to get excited, and we have great ideas, and the next thing you know, you got the coolest cooler. I mean, sorry,
Low blow. Gyroscope. Damn.
Count me as one. I mean, because you're right, Caleb. A lot of the debate that's taking place right now is how big is VR and AR going to be, and some people are thinking it's really not going to scale. I happen to be one of those who think it's actually going to do very well. I mean,
I'm with
the
you.
applications
I'm with
for
you on that.
education, the applications for medicine and research, the applications again just for the construction industry, and let alone what the entertainment industry is going to do with it. I just think there are a lot of applications, and you're going to see a lot of money moving into it.
Yeah, if I can slap on a pair of goggles and fix my oil filter, awesome.
Right.
Because I look underneath the hood of a car and I have knobby things, Yeah. This sounds wonderful for people to kind of branch out and get into things that they'd never have the time to learn in a conventional way. AR is, I think it's going to be awesome.
Well, one of the things the guy said that they're looking to do is their goal is to have in each kid's bedroom, essentially they would have one of these machines so they could do AR or VR and virtually travel to anywhere in the world as an educational tool, which sounds like a holodeck to me, which is, of course, my overriding goal for life is I want a holodeck. That is the tech we need. So I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic.
No, I think the big issue is the increasing reports you're hearing that certain percentage of the population basically gets nauseous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I've
Rich,
used a lot of
producing
VR, and I
this show, I
haven't had
believe,
that
is one of
issue
those
at all,
people.
but I mean, they're going to have to really wrestle with it. And then the flip side of that is Magic Leap, right? Which is what are they going to offer? I had dinner last week with John Markoff, who's the senior tech writer for the New York Times, who's one of the two journalists, I believe, that have actually gone to Florida and tested Magic Leap. and he couldn't tell me why, but he said it is a experience completely different from Oculus Rift, completely different from HTC, completely
Wow.
different from any VR, AR experience he's had, and much better. Without really being able to explain to me why. But so we have that generation to look forward to.
And that's part of the problem with VR too, is being able to explain it until you experience it. You know, it's so hard to tell somebody, because I've tried out, you know, the Vive and Oculus, and well, not Oculus, but Samsung Gear VR. But until you try it, there's no way to really accurately tell somebody about that. You know, which is why they're going around now and setting up display units at GameStop or Game Exchange or whatever. GameStop, yeah, and different places. That's going to be, I think it's going to be really exciting to see if this company can do it. They are very hard on this, that AR and VR do not exist. They're one thing, which Caleb, you will have to, maybe we'll get them on the show. You guys can debate that. You can debate it back and forth. All right, if you're live on Facebook too and you have any questions, feel free to pop those in there and we'll get to those as we go through. So moving on to another topic completely, I guess, along these lines of just evolving VR in different ways. I don't know if it counts as VR, but it has to do with robot skin. We'll just go to that. It has to do with this company that just developed this thing that I think is pretty amazing and at the same time kind of terrifying. And it's called Smart Skin. And the idea is that they can put this on, they're designing it to put it on robots so that they can actually feel things and detect like humans can, like an actual finger touch, you know, like fingerprints. And it's pretty amazing that they've come up with this. They've found a way to do it way cheaper than you've ever been able to do it before. It used to be you have to have, you know, tons of electrodes to be able to do that. Now they're just running wires, and it's through some kind of electrical field that they're doing this, where they can detect things. So the arm can go out and it can detect things as light as like a bumblebee landing on it, was their example. I don't know if I want robots to be able to feel like that. That's a little bit unnerving when the androids take over.
I think it's scarier if they can't feel like that.
You think?
And they're interacting with you, and they're like trying to help you up, and they're just crushing your hand
Crushing your
because they have
bones?
no idea that they're actually making contact with you.
Well, I
This
mean,
is
it's
great.
you're all for it. You're all for it. Well, it's pretty revolutionary what they're doing. The other thing that they're talking about is that it could also help out, you know, amputees or somebody who's lost something, you know, that they would be able to maybe feel again. I don't know. What do you guys think about this kind of a development? Do you think this is something that has some warrants to it, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you can outfit a prosthetic with this kind of technology and somehow integrate that so that the wearer could actually feel,
Right.
I think that would be a huge deal. It's one of those technologies that I think we haven't discovered everything that we could do with it.
Right.
You know, I mean, the future-looking selves that we tend to be like want to see robots, you know,
Right.
with skin, and they feel us touching them, and for all kinds of crazy reasons that somebody say 15.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
All that
Like,
will just be one giant beep for that.
but I think that there's potentially some practical applications for this, and
Yeah.
I feel like we've been reading about this for a while with graphene being used in this sort of stuff, and Drew could speak better to this than I could. But yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool technology, and I'm glad that somebody's developing it.
Yeah, somebody's working on it.
I don't have much to add. I mean, I think this is fine. It does sort of raise the larger issue of artificial intelligence and the concern. And, you know, on the one hand, if Bill Gates and Steve Hawking and who else, Elon Musk, are concerned, I suppose we should.
Right.
I'm not quite seeing it yet, but
Yeah.
I suppose it's a
I think
legitimate thing to worry about.
there's no stopping it at this point anyway. I mean, you can be concerned about it, but people are not going to stop developing this.
If we're gonna have robot overlords, I would
Right.
like for them to be able to sense when they're touching us. I
You'd
think
that
like
mean you
for
can
them
hurt
to
them
pick
back?
up a banana and know
Yeah.
if it's ripe or not
Yes, thank you.
when they do your shopping for you.
If we're heading that direction anyway, I think it's great that they can feel. all
Okay,
right?
fair enough. All right.
We can't stop it.
All right, we're starting to run low on time. I just realized we've been going for about 25 minutes. Caleb,
Yes.
I wanted to get to your topic here.
Yay.
Circling
Thanks.
around, completely unrelated, no segue will work for this, but it has to do with Comcast, which I guess you can speak of overlords. They kind of are the overlords of a
They
lot of
are.
us. And Comcast has apparently maybe given up on something. Is this correct?
Yeah, this is kind of a big development. If you pay attention to what Comcast does, and
They
I mean,
charge
a lot
me a ton, I know that.
exactly. They charge you a ton of money, right? They don't deliver exactly what you want, and now you've got a wandering eye, and you're looking at these other options over here, like Sling TV and streaming services from Netflix and Hulu and stuff. And I think Comcast is realizing that more and more consumers are getting that wandering eye and thinking up great ways to ditch Comcast for TV service. You might keep them for your internet service because that's the only option you have. But not always. Sometimes there's competition in the area, so they're in jeopardy. That's the bottom line. I believe that's the motivation behind this. Regardless, it's a huge deal, and that is that they are finally saying, "Listen, we're going to let TV manufacturers like Samsung and LG and Sony, and even streaming set-top box makers like Roku and potentially Apple TV operate as the cable box. So you would not need a separate piece of hardware anymore. You wouldn't need their DVR. You wouldn't need their X1 platform,
right?
Or you wouldn't need it built into a box. That's a big deal because Comcast is basically giving away revenue that way. They collect a lot of. I mean, look at your bill. Look at your bill, and you can see how much money they're milking you for on
renting
equipment rental fees, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people they don't even realize they have options when it comes to their cable modem. But you can buy a cable modem and never have to pay a rental fee again, because you own it. But in the case of the cable boxes, you're not getting cable service without some sort of hardware device, whether it's a cable card you put in your TiVo or an actual box. Now, what's unclear is exactly how this program is going to be implemented. I don't know if there's going to be hardware built into the TVs, and maybe there's a new Roku box that has a new piece of hardware in it that would let you fold in cable, or if they're going to launch this huge new app and go with a true internet-based delivery system, which would mean that they're looking at cutting all that cable stuff out of the bandwidth, that delivers out of the pipe that comes into your home, and fill more of it with internet, increase your internet bandwidth, which would be great for everyone, right? Who likes to stream TV. So how they're doing it is unclear. But if you look at Comcast saying, look, we're going to give up on a huge chunk of our revenue, like this whole hardware thing that we've been involved in, we're going to make it possible for us not to have that anymore.
So I have to think there's a catch here.
Yeah,
Comcast.
exactly.
So they're giving up that fee. I tend to think that there's just going to be another fee. It'll be the app fee. Now you pay $5 a month to use their goddamn app.
Right.
Like,
you have your
they're not
subscription
just
goes
gonna
to
give
the
it
app.
There's some hidden catch.
Or they increase the price of their packages, or they look at a new bundling option where they tuck it into your internet bill. And they get they're not giving up the revenue.
No,
They're
that's
giving
the
up
thing.
the source of
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah.
They're just and that's
Like,
the thing.
this sounds great.
We don't know a whole lot about how it's going to go, but it's a big change. I mean, we've always had cable boxes.
Yeah.
In fact, going and picking up the new fancy cable box. I used to be excited about that. I was like, man, this thing has like new features and a new remote and new S video output. But I'm sorry, I went S video. That's old school. Like
That
half
is,
our audience
yeah.
has no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
Nerd.
I know, but no, it's a big deal, and it really it's a sign of things to come. We got to keep an eye on what they're doing.
Yeah,
and if
I don't-
Comcast is doing it, then we're going to start hearing about how Charter and Time Warner are also doing it. They're not going to. Comcast may beat everybody else, but they're going to be a leader here, I think.
I
You
do
think
not
it's
trust
the
it.
end of the cable box? I mean, in theory, if
Oh,
they
yeah.
roll this out, why would anybody
Yeah,
do it the old way?
we haven't really needed a cable box for a long time. I think that they've been pushing the cable box because they were grasping onto that. They obviously have a plan, and this goes back to how the other shoe drops. They have a plan for changing their delivery system somehow.
Yeah.
And they're talking to manufacturers, which is something they've never considered before. Nope. I mean, the cable card was as close as it got, and that was still a piece of hardware going into your TV. Now they don't do them in TVs; they just do them in some aftermarket DVRs like the TiVo. But yeah, this is a big move for them. So watch what happens to your cable over the next 2 years, because I think it's going to go fast.
Well, it's not. I guarantee they're not going to change the bill. They are going to find some
No,
way to
they'll
still
still
charge the
collect their
same amount.
money.
Yeah, if not more.
Yeah.
I bet they're masters at figuring that out. But yeah, that is a big development. We'll see what happens with it. All right, last topic here that I wanted to get to. This is one I'm excited about. I don't know if anybody else is, although I do have a question about it. And we're jumping all over the place with these topics. If you have any questions, go ahead and
That's
pop those
half
in
the
on
fun
Facebook.
of this show.
I know, it's just we're going all
need
over
a
the
stinking
place.
segue? Come on.
Exactly. There's no rules here.
Speaking of nanobots.
Speaking of nanobots,
Thank you, Nick. Well
I believe there you go. There's the segue. Stephen Hawking and Mark Zuckerberg and Russian billionaire Yuri Milner all came out. This was last week, I believe, or maybe the week before last, but I wanted to talk about it now, about a new plan to send nanobots to Alpha Centauri, which is the closest star system. We're going to get a little nerdy here, but it's the closest star system to ours, and they're going to send out these nanobots.
There you go.
There's
I've
the
been
voice.
waiting all day
The
for
voice
that
is going to
voice.
happen.
Thank you.
They're shitting out nanobots via lasers. So it's
Are lasers actually involved?
lasers are involved.
I love it
It's
already.
lasers and it's space travel. I
Yes.
love it. So they're sending out these, essentially the size of a postage stamp is what it's going to be. And they're going to shoot these things with a laser. So it's got a little sail on the back of it, and a laser will hit it from Earth that will speed them up to, I think it's 20% of the speed of light. And basically they can send these things to Alpha Centauri in 20 years, which, would be impossible without this kind of technology, which is pretty groundbreaking stuff if they can do it, because it's really cheap and they can send these things and test out all this stuff. My question is, though, wasn't Stephen Hawking last year warning us about contacting aliens and that this was a terrible idea? He said just like
do
he hates.
remember something along
Yeah, he
those
said that
lines.
AI is going to kill us, and he also said if we contact aliens, they're going to kill us. But now he's shooting out all of these things all over the place, letting people know. I think it's exciting. I think it could bring about all kinds of different developments.
Well, first of all, look, if there were aliens out there capable of killing us, I'm sure they would have done so already. Like, what's stopping them?
Yeah.
It's not like they're unaware that we're here. Oh, you mean that blue dot is totally inhabited by humanoids? Let's get out there and kill them all. Look, I don't, no. I don't think that we're
think so?
putting ourselves in jeopardy by exposing ourselves to some unwitting alien race. No, I don't think that's happening. Sorry.
Okay.
Wow, we took
Wow.
that-
Just
took that
just
to
a
a very-
hard line stance right there.
I'm sorry.
AR and VR are different.
I don't
and there are
pussyfoot around. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here to draw lines between people. Everybody's
Yes.
talking about bringing people together. No,
Nope.
we gotta
divide it.
push stupid over here and bring ourselves up. Let's boost ourselves up. Let's improve ourselves. And yes, send nanobots to Alpha Centauri. Absolutely do that, because I want to know what's going on out there.
We have
Right?
to wait 20 years, though.
It's 20
just
years.
I'll
to-
still be
just to
alive.
get 'em
That's
there.
cool. Hurry up. I know I'm making it to 61. Not sure about 70. So
You've already made that prediction.
no,
huh?
I'm just not sure. That's all. It's not a prediction so much as it is the
Caleb has
general
lived a
sense
hard
of my
life.
health and well-being.
By that point, we'll be able to 3D print any organs that are going bad anyway. So
yeah,
you'll
well,
be fine.
good, because my liver's going to need that.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there.
place to
It's
end.
exciting. You could read that story at digitaltrends.com and leave us a comment. Send us an email, podcast@digitaltrends.com, or comment on this Facebook link if you're watching it there, or YouTube, wherever you're consuming the show. That's fantastic. I want to say a big thank you for you coming in today.
Oh,
this
hey.
was
Yeah,
this was
Pleasure to
great.
be with
Love
you
having
guys.
guests in.
Techfest Northwest, TechfestNW.com. Get your tickets. Tomorrow, we have Between the Streams, our other live streaming show here at Digital Trends. That's at 2 p.m. Pacific, live on Facebook and YouTube as well. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week with another episode.
Only if
15.
Dubs makes it
15.
back.